this idea of hustle culture and overworking and busyness is actually not productive. We think that it is, like you said, it's sensationalized. It's the stuff that gets the clicks and the attention in culture. And so it's sort of like this snowball effect, right? Because people click on it, then it becomes, the norm,
Mm.
and then it becomes more clickable. And like, right, it's just a cycle, right? But the science actually shows that this is not true, that what you're saying is true, that if you work, let's say, there was a study that was done by the WHO in 2019 that shows that working over 55 hours per week actually increases the risk of stroke and heart disease by 35%. So it's not good for your health. A Stanford study also showed that productivity actually drops sharply after 50 hours of work per week, and that working beyond 50 hours creates no additional results. So you're really not getting anywhere just because you think you're busy and working more and longer. You're actually not really achieving anything. So it's exactly what you're saying. The science proves it out too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We did this one experiment years ago on the word softness and the practice of it in a group. And it was funny because even after we kind of went through the exercise and everybody said, okay, softness wins against rigidity. But they
Mhm.
said, do you have a different word for it? Because
See?
it doesn't sound right.
Right.
And we had one group do just a squat position, do the position how you need to do it, rest everything that you don't need. Don't put the extra clenching of your muscles, don't double do. And then the other group just did the squat with, the force, push, and struggle, the no pain, no gain way. And of course, what happened was the soft group could stay in it much longer. The other group was, crinkling their forehead, grunting and screaming and had to quit. So we
Mhm.
all in real time learned that the soft way got a lot more done. But the
Mhm.
interesting thing was a lot of the soft people even said that was much harder than doing it the hard way. It's emotionally harder to just be without busying your mind and your body with that extra, uh, because we're so used to it. It's
Right.
really hard to make the better choice. And I think that's the work.
Yeah, I mean, and it actually this is something I was thinking about, is that hustle culture, like this idea of pushing harder, I think is an avoidance tactic. It's exactly what you're saying. I think that people stay in that, clenched, busy sort of, um, hustle way, right? Even what you're describing with the experiment that you did, to avoid the emotions, the deeper emotions that you have to deal with when you relax a little. It's exactly what you're saying, right?
Yeah. And then it's amazing. I think that's what's so cool about doing this practice is you're one of the big things that happens is you're getting more comfortable with noticing what's going on with you. And if you're avoiding yourself all the time by busying yourself and overworking and overstressing, you're never, like you said, dealing with yourself, but you're also shutting off that intuition, that creativity, all those things that we're trying to get by overworking. We're trying to get more creative, trying to get more done. But noticing how you feel, allowing yourself to soften, puts that spotlight back on yourself. And once you get comfortable with that a few times, it doesn't happen all the time, but you remember, "Oh, yeah, it's good for me to notice how I feel. I feel better when I do that. I get more done. People feel better around me. Things in my life go better. Yeah, this is a good idea. I should keep choosing this."
Right, right. I mean, and it's, it makes perfect sense physiologically, right? Because really, the hustle and the busyness, that really just puts you into a stress state, right? You have increased cortisol, which is a stress hormone, you have increased adrenaline. And so, that causes increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased respiration, right? All of these things. And over time, if you are always in that state of this chronic stress of like the busyness, the pushing, leads to every chronic illness, heart disease, weight gain, immune suppression, fatigue. All of these things are a result of that. So not only is it bad for your productivity and your creativity, it's also bad for your health in general, right? But I don't think that we all realize that because we've been conditioned to think that hustle, busy, push the grind, that is the way to succeed in life and in health and in work and whatever, right?
And then you get the burnout, and then you get all the sort of, uh, uh, things to do when you're burnout. And then it's just a repetition because you can hustle, 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 burn out, and then, oh, relax, go on vacation, take a bath, keep it easy, take care of yourself. But then at some point, if you don't change what you're doing, you're going to end right back
Mhm.
up at the same place and need to get that same anti burnout book and start again.
Right,
So you got
right.
to change what you're doing if you don't want to be in that cycle forever.
And what's coming up for me as you're saying this is that it's almost like there's two states, right? There's this hustle mode that we're talking about, this chronic stress state that we can be in with the busyness and the hustle. But then there's this other state called flow state. And when you're talking about living softly, keep coming back to that idea of the flow state, which has been studied a lot, right? And that really is sort of the opposite that's happening in the brain, right? With hustle and busyness, it's all the stress hormones that are being released. But when you're in flow state, what we've found from science is that that state actually increases dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, right? All of the things that are feel good, that make you more creative, more productive in the sense of you're actually getting things done, your mind is working well, you're in a good mood, right? That's the state you want to be in, the flow state, not that hustle mode. Um and so it's just interesting because I feel like those are two opposite things almost, and living softly is all about how do I get into that flow state and stay there for as
Mhm,
much of the time as I can, right? Because, you know, flow state, what it's really been described as in the literature is, that it's a state when you're so fully immersed in your task with ease and
mhm.
enjoyment that's
Um,
what takes over, and that's why it's flow because it's ease, it's
mm,
easeful, all the things you talk about. Um, and I found another study that was really interesting I wanna tell you about, which goes to completely prove exactly what you're saying.
mm,
There was a study done in 2014 by McKinsey, the consulting company, and they found that executives that spent time in flow state were 500%
mm.
more productive than those that were forcing effort and multitasking. 500% more productive.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I believe it.
right? I mean, that is an astonishing number. It's not like 50% more
Yeah.
effective. It's 500% more effective when they were in this flow state versus hustle and forcing all the time.
Well, I mean, what's funny to me about that is, I was in New York then leading one-on-one yoga to a lot of those high executive people. A friend of mine would, like, send me all of his clients, and they would all be, like, the startup of this and this and this, and they would all be coming to me with the hustle culture. And
Mhm.
then I would show them how to soften in a plank pose. And I would always do this, and I would never do this with like a normal person because
Right.
it's ridiculous. But I would put these men and women in these plank poses and like scrawny little me, and they would have all these muscles from all their personal trainers. And I would say, we're having a competition. And of course, high professional people love competitions. Most people do.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I would always win, and then they would finally say, "Okay, show me what you're talking about." And then I would show them how to get into this soft mindset and the flow, and I would tell them, like, "Just do it. You will improve at your productivity, and you will also become a better person, less of a
Mhm.
jerk to the taxi driver, less of a jerk to your waiter, all of your stop buying alligator belts that you don't need." Like these guys, I would get so
No.
upset at these guys and girls, and I would see it in real time, so I fully believe it doesn't only help your productivity, but it makes you more of a better human because you notice how you feel, and if you notice how you feel, you can pick your head up and say, "Well, how do the people around me feel? I'm
Right.
not here alone. I'm here with other people. The taxi driver
Mhm.
is also here. These people aren't here to just service me. We're all here together to do something." And I saw in real
Right.
time these people becoming the better versions of themselves, and they kinda also saw where they got lost along the way with their
Look, yeah.
addiction to getting more money and power and fame and whatever it was. And, you can still achieve, but you can also act like a great, good person. I
Mhm.
believe that study. I think it's incredible when people start doing practices like this.